we are now living in this world where immediacy is expected before we even open our eyes, but the reality is something quite different.
When people understand that is biology, and biology does not react to grandiose gestures, right? It's all these smaller things that you build over time.
We spend approximately 50% of our sleep, give or take, in rapid eye movement or in light sleep.
Certain people have had so bad sleep for such a long time that they're desperate for a solution right now. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Becoming Limitless. Today is a special one for me because you know how much I focus on sleep, and today we're going to be talking to perhaps the foremost expert on sleep in the region. I'm a huge fan, as you will notice through the episode. So today we're joined by Julie Mallon, founder of Nurture to Sleep and one of the Middle East leading sleep experts. With more than 30 years of experience across nursing, midwifery, family health, and sleep consulting, Julie helps individuals and families understand one of the most important foundations of health and longevity: sleep. Today, we will explore what good sleep really means, why modern life is disrupting it, and how we can improve it without creating more anxiety around bedtime. Julie, I'm so excited to have you. Thank you, and welcome to Becoming Limitless.
You're welcome. I'm very excited. I mean, I eat, sleep, drink, sleep. I find it really exciting.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I mean, people find this a little bit weird about us, I guess, certainly me, because I speak so much about sleep. And then when I always say, when someone asks, what is the one thing, I say sleep, is, it's like and because people struggle with it, right?
Yeah.
So, and it seems like this unfathomable sort of aspect of our health that we can't seem to sort out or break. Obviously, you've been here for a while. You've seen it almost all, and you've seen the progression of the sort of things that disrupt sleep, right? In your past 30 years of kind of experiencing, different reasons why people don't have the restorative sleep that they should have, how have you seen it evolve? What are the latest issues that people are facing?
So it's interesting. When you say I've seen it all, I actually haven't. And that's a little bit alarming because I do think, situations are getting more complex and there's more and more stress placed on families, children, teenagers within the workplace. So we're at a level now where I truly believe that we've never had parents, families having to deal with so many factors. So that's the first thing. But the second thing is our biology has remained the same. The biology has not changed at all, whether it's child, adult, or in the workplace. But the environment has changed dramatically. So I think that's a really big part of what is resulting in why we are sleeping not as well.
Yeah.
But I also, even the very fact saying about sleeping, what does good sleep mean? Even that alone, we've piled on the pressure of sleep.
Yeah, that's so true. And it creeps up the quality or the poor quality of sleep that we sort of experience. It's something that creeps up on us. It's not something that we can turn back immediately. So it's small micro decisions that you do over time, as well as obviously the environment, and then your adaptation to it or whatever you do. So and then people's expectation is to fix it overnight, right? I think you perhaps have seen this because people expect, and when they're trying to, we'll talk about supplements and other stuff like that may help with sleep for the right person at the right time, et cetera, et cetera. But they expect if they take, I don't know, magnesium glycinate or whatever, that's it. Like it's going to resolve everything. Yeah. I don't want to say complex because I don't want to put people off, but there are several areas, right? It's not a one thing that you do and that's it, right?
Yeah. So very rarely is there one single component to a sleep issue, like anything,
Right.
whether it's your diet, whether it's your exercise, whether any of those things. There's very rarely one single component.
Yeah.
Now, the other element here is that if we're looking at children, for example, we know it takes approximately, according to all the neuroscience data, 10 to 14 days to change the behavior of a child, which is what sleep is. Sleep in its purest form is a learnt behavior.
Right.
Same for adults.
Right.
With adults, clearly it takes longer. And exactly what you're saying, it's a process. And so in order to change a behavior, then we are looking at 6 weeks to 3 months to truly change that behavior. So now it becomes part of a habit. So first of all, we look at creating a new norm. Now, again, whether that's exercise, diet, but particularly sleep, it's about 5 to 6 to 1 week creating a new norm. And then we go on to creating that habit. So that's very much it isn't, unfortunately, because of the world that we are now living in, we switch the light on and we expect electricity. Human right, internet, that's considered a human right to have internet. So we are now living in this world where immediacy is expected before we even open our eyes. But the reality is something quite different. So yes, we know that if something's worth, something is that important, it's not going to happen overnight. We have to work towards it. Whether it's, something that you really want, whether you want to pass this exam, you're not going to pass the exam just by turning up. We have to work at it. And sleep is the same. Now, very much about not making it complex. It's about putting habits that are manageable.
Yeah.
And when we know that we are setting ourselves up to succeed, then it makes it so much easier.
When people understand that is biology, and biology does not react to grandiose gestures, right? It's all these smaller things that you build over time. I think it makes more sense for people. Now, in your opinion, not just in your professional opinion, what constitutes a good sleep? Is it time? Is it quality? What is it exactly?
So again,
in general speaking, obviously we
Yeah.
know children is different. We
Yeah.
can maybe break it down, but in general.
So if we're looking at the evidence, and this is why sleep now is in such an exciting place, because it's very new science, and it's really the irony in that technology has helped us get to this place where we are understanding so much more about sleep than
The
ever
stages and so
before.
on. Yes.
That's very exciting. But equally, we know that technology is also destroying our sleep.
Right.
So when we're looking at good sleep is much more about quality of sleep rather than quantity.
Right.
Good sleep is, we shouldn't need a tracker to tell us in the morning if you have slept well or you have slept badly. We should know that when we wake up, if we wake up without an alarm, if we wake up feeling ready to go, we have had good quality sleep. So it's bringing it right back to knowing so much more about ourselves and not be expertizing all of these elements of who we are. We should be able to know, I've slept really well tonight, or funnily enough, today, my sleep wasn't great last night,
Right.
which is unusual for me. And again, the irony of coming here this morning, and I know my sleep wasn't great. Now, what that enabled me to do was to explore. We have to be detectives around our sleep. Okay, I didn't have a great sleep last night, but what led to my sleep not being?
The causes, right?
Yeah. And we can, that little bit of an awareness and a little bit of knowledge. It's not about knowing about the latest science and having the latest tracker or following rigidity, whether it comes to food, but it's just about everything within balance.
Well, we said biology already. So some of these causes can be a late meal, can be something that you're sensitive with when it comes to food. It could be alcohol. It could be stress at work. It could be an event that stayed with your nervous system, and so on. So there are plenty of causes that you could explore and kind of find out what happened yesterday. And I think with repetition, you kind of realize that if I have one glass of something, that's gonna drastically affect my sleep, and therefore maybe I can control that a little bit more or hydrate better or something,
Yeah.
but you cannot just wash that away.
No.
Alcohol is always something that really causes the quality of sleep to drop. Um, so, I mean, we can go into that later maybe, but I'd love for those that, like me, that love to track, with a wearable, what sort of numbers we should be looking at for deep REM, etc. We won't go into HRV, the nervous system, stuff like that, but for deep and REM, with deep is for the body, REM for the mind, and what are we looking for?
So if we're looking at the physiology of our sleep,
Mm-hmm.
and again, none of these trackers, no matter whether it's a Whoop or what, it doesn't matter what it is.
Yes.
They are still not accurate enough yet to really,
It's
really.
an algorithm, right?
It is an algorithm, and
Yeah.
it's how still we sleep. And in order to get, the gold standard would be a polysomnography test.
Yes.
Now, if you look at a polysomnography test, if you look at the image, they have maybe 200 spots that they are taking readings from.
Right.
So under no circumstances could one watch, one wearable, pick up all of these elements.
Ring, watch, whatever, yes.
Doesn't matter. The other element here is that I have had situations where one partner has put their hand up and picked up the other person's sleep. And it wasn't until that I was able to identify, and it wasn't easy, but something wasn't making sense. And then I asked, so that's where we really need to come down to the nitty gritty and the detective work.
Right.
But when it comes to the physiology of our sleep, we spend approximately 50% of our sleep, give or take, in rapid eye movement or in light sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Now, light sleep is no less more important than deep sleep. And if you're looking at the tracking, you might think, oh, I've only had so much deep sleep last night. All that was in light sleep. We're supposed to have light sleep because within the light sleep, stage 2, just as an example, this is where we have the sleep spindles, and sleep spindles are what's absolutely incredible. And these are bursts of energy which happen in the very first part of our sleep cycle. And they help us with our declarative memory. So, for example, that's where there was a wonderful study that came out with basketball players. When they have a nap of 9 minutes approximately, their shooting accuracy increases by 30%.
Right.
Now, that's because of the sleep spindles that are being activated during our sleep.
Brain-body coordination and other things like
but
that.
also transformation of memory, so different types of memory. And that's in light sleep. We also know in the first half of our night, that's when certain proteins are being removed from the body. So, your grandmother's advice of an hour before midnight is worth 2 afterwards, they weren't wrong. They didn't need any of this science. This was common sense.
Yeah.
So, and now more than ever, because of light pollution and food and all the other things, all the other distractions, we've got to come away from what constitutes good sleep and really look about having a balanced getting to bed early. There was a wonderful study in 2024 which included over 60,000 people in the UK, and it was taken from Stanford. And regardless of your chronotype being whether you're a lark, so you're a morning person, or an owl, night person, didn't matter what you were. If you went to bed 10 p.m. approximately, consistently, and woke up at 6, your mental health outcome was considerably better. So this is just about that rhythm and that consistency. It's about as we've very, very familiar now with the circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
So that was a very long answer, and I'm sorry, but
No, it's beautiful. No, it's beautiful. And this will horrify you, but I was doing a little experiment with quite a few wearables at the same time. The Apple Watch, the Whoop, the Ring, several rings, my 8 Sleep, the bed, and all of anything that would actually, for someone who is concerned about EMF, this would horrify them. But anyway, so I for a short period of time, I used them all to try to see like what is the variability between them. and you'll be shocked of the variability, like between one and
Yeah.
the other. Like
Yeah.
there was no consistency throughout.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't find any logic
Yeah.
that will say, you know, this is was better than that, or the discrepancy is maybe a little. No, each one gave us a very different one. Now, at the end of the day, if you're using one particular one, if you're a tracker like myself and you're using a particular one, as long as you stick to one kind of as a base and kind of understand what is happening, for me, it is important to correlate what I do throughout the day, where my state of mind is, the amount of activity that I do, the sort of food and hydration that I do, the sort of supplements that I'm taking on, and everything else, obviously, seasons, so on. How does that impact my quality of sleep? And I kind of keep track of it loosely without, you know, anxiety, without obsession. And I look at averages over a period of time.
Yeah.
And then I see, you know, in April, or a good month would be October, where all these events happen and I'm doing all sorts of talks and panels and all sorts of things like that. That month, consistently, every year, I have the least quality sleep I have throughout the year. And I try to preempt it, and I try to do more breath work and things like that to kind of help it. But I haven't done enough work to see if with or without the breath work, like all of that. Again, there's so much you can do.
But you have already highlighted why you absolutely don't need the tracker.
Yeah.
You know that in October,
Yeah.
that is going to happen, in that your sleep and that they're going to be compromised. You know that.
Yes.
So something so simple as, you know, putting that note in your diary, second week in September, start to prepare yourself. So build your sleep bank up, you know, make an effort to perhaps have one glass of wine instead of two.
Right.
You know, bring your meal just 30 minutes earlier. These are really practical tips without using a tracker, because just by the very nature of having that tracker, it is going to tell you what you already know. And also, if we're looking at EMF, it is going to impact your sleep as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you're almost working against yourself by looking at the technology. And for me, and certainly from, you know, sleep specialists who I really do look at so much of their work, you know, whether it's academics or medics, but the best way to use a tracker is to use it, say, every 2 to 3 months. Every 2 to 3 months, wear it for approximately 1 week or 10 days, and then you're looking for these patterns. And that's when it's going to help you the most, and deduce from it, okay, so I know this happened and that happened, because if you're using it for that period of time, you will focus on the information and you will be more true to, you'll pay more attention to what you are doing, as opposed to if you're wearing it all the time. Because unfortunately, we are a data-driven society, and there is so much data, but we don't do anything with it.
Yes.
So that's why wearing it every 2 months-ish, 2 to 3 months, depending on, you know, how you explore and how you perceive that data, that's going to be really helpful. And then the other thing, which I also think is so helpful, is that do not look at your tracker until you've been awake for 1 hour. So let that not be the first thing that you do, but approximately 1 hour later, when you have really examined yourself, it's like, gosh, yes, I slept really well last night, or the opposite, or actually not too bad, but at least I know why.
Yeah.
Because then when you come to look at that tracker, approximately 1 hour, you yourself have made sense, and you can read into that information and process that information much more intellectually.
Amazing advice. I like that. I like that quite a bit. It just makes so much more sense. Okay, now let's move on to slightly more controversial side of things. When it takes, you know, for supplements and other things that people take, trying to, you know, cut corners when it comes to sleep, because I mean, let's face it, certain people have had bad sleep for such a long time that they're desperate for a solution right now. Now, what are your thoughts about some of these things, some of these interventions that people do, including melatonin or sleep aid or Panadol night or whatever? I know some of them horrifies you, but just give us your rundown a little bit on them.
I think the only reason that they horrify me is because of the harm. that they can do.
Of course.
So, for example, with Panadol Night, I know that there are a number of studies that are showing if you take Panadol Night,
We're not picking on Panadol, any of
okay,
those night
but
ones, right? Yeah.
there is an increase,
Yeah.
there is an incidence of 33% increase risk of Parkinson's.
Oh, wow.
So it's about having all the information. That's the really important thing. Now, if we're looking at melatonin, for example, when you're a bad sleeper, it's not, the most important thing is it's not judging, and it's not saying you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. It's like, how can we make it better? And if that is almost like an emergency fix, let's
Jet
just get you,
lag, stuff
not
like-
even jet lag,
not even jet lag.
not even for jet lag particularly. There's other things better.
Okay.
So melatonin, it has to be said, is an endocrine disruptor. That's the first thing we need to recognize. If you are going to have to take melatonin,
Can you explain that for a second, please? Because obviously it's part of our circadian rhythm, right?
Yeah.
So tell us, how is it an endocrine disruptor?
So melatonin is a hormone, and it is released in the pineal gland, and that's released every 24 hours. Now, if we're looking at this this particular hormone, this hormone, it just starts the body for sleeping. It doesn't help the body in terms of staying asleep.
That's very important, because most people
so
take it thinking
important.
that they want to, that keeps them asleep, but
Not
it
at all.
doesn't. It
No.
only helps you fall asleep.
Exactly.
Right?
It only helps you fall asleep. Now, it does have wonderful properties. It has anti-inflammatory properties as well. So we're not making this a big bad guy, but we are wanting to ensure that we understand how the mechanism of how it works. And it literally just initiates sleep. That's it. Now, the other thing here is that as you are taking it, the body, it's that supply and demand. Okay, so I'm receiving this melatonin internally. The biology thinks, okay, therefore I'm going to reduce the production of melatonin. So the more that you take as a supplement, the more the body begins to actually reduce its supply that it
production.
makes naturally. Now, the other thing here, which most people do not, I once had a call not that long ago from a pharmacist, and the pharmacist was saying that one of his clients had been prescribed 10 milligrams of melatonin for sleeping. And he said, my understanding, and this was a qualified doctor, my understanding is that's too high. What would be my recommendation? How much melatonin does the body require to initiate sleep? So this is a question to you.
I'm not entirely clear.
Approximately.
I'm not, but certainly not 10 milligram. That seems absurd to me.
The body requires approximately 0.5 to 1 milligram to initiate sleep.
Yeah.
Now, if you're looking to buy it as a supplement, most of them out there, you buy it as a 3 milligrams. So already from you taking that one dose, the body is now beginning to think, you've got a lot. Let's start. The other thing here, we know that there are so many studies showing when the FDA, for example, go, because it's down as a food supplement, when the FDA will take some off the shelf, it is known to have up to 88% more than what is actually on the box.
Wow.
So you might think you've got 3 milligrams, but
Could
so
be having more.
melatonin is, if you feel you have to take melatonin, then you would look to take, instead of a synthetic melatonin, you would look to buy a plant-based melatonin, because of all the melatonins, that's the least harmful. So that's what you would be looking at, some of these supplements. But first of all, before you would take something like magnesium glycinate, and yet, I mean, these are all really wonderful aids, sleep aids that really can help us sleep, because modern living, within our food is not containing the magnesium that we once required. And we know that magnesium is responsible for over 300 chemical mechanisms within the body.
Correct.
So if we are low in magnesium, then we are not going to be able to function at an optimal environment.
Right.
So again, start off with our basics. So look at your diet and look at your sleep, look at your hydration, look at your exercise. Is this supporting good sleep? Could there be factors where you feel your body is compromised, and then look at as a short-term boost, taking your, not melatonin particularly, but taking your magnesium or...
Would you add glycine to it, or just would you stick with, you would.
I would add glycine. And again, because of modern day living, because the body and the brain is now, I think we are much more stressed than ever before. And it is causing an imbalance from a neurochemical perspective. But it's not something that we should be taking long term. And of course it is age related. So, for example, and I know but it's such a big conversation.
I know. It's okay, but yeah.
But it's like, for example, our mitochondria, the powerhouse of every single cell in the body. A lot of people are unaware that actually melatonin is the other place where melatonin is produced in the mitochondria. So it's not just in the brain, but if we have the one thing that is damaging our mitochondria is sugar. And we are all consuming far too much sugar inadvertently. Most of us are not aware of how much sugar, because it's hidden in the foods. I mean, for example, the word sugar is hidden in what the food industry uses sugar. They have different words, up to, I think it's 42 words for sugar, which of course none of us would know, no matter how much of an interest.
Right.
So sugar damages, the one thing that damages our mitochondria. And if we then think about melatonin is also being produced in the mitochondria. So, and as we age, we do have to be mindful, but it's always worth taking a break. So, for example, you might have 1 month of magnesium. You then have a break for 10 days, really do review how you're feeling, and then start again to introduce the supplement. So it's about working with your body and knowing your
Based
body.
on your needs and maybe even lifestyle.
Lifestyle's huge.
If you have because there's stages throughout the year, right? So your sources of stress change depending on the load, the seasons, et cetera, et cetera. So there are times of the year where perhaps you are a little bit more relaxed and therefore may not need some of these supplements for you to have the sleep, the restorative sleep that your body needs and your brain needs. My general sort of approach to sleep myself, for me, is I look at the year, all of it, and there are times of the year where I know I don't need anything at all, and there are times of the year where I know my body is under pressure, then I would use something to help with it. You've mentioned food earlier. I'd love to kind of just briefly, I know it's another huge area,
It is.
but can you give us a few types of, obviously we mentioned sugar already, a few types of food that we should avoid at night, and a few types of food that perhaps we should prioritize at night if we're going to have a good restorative sleep?
Yeah. So first of all, to understand why food is so important, the timing of food is so important when it comes to our sleep. So if we're looking at a general guideline, so many of the guidelines are suggesting there is a wonderful neuroscientist who really is the person who's done so much of the work when it comes to our circadian rhythm. And he is the person who really did understand first and foremost about the importance of food and the timing that we eat. So he really was the trailblazer when it comes to intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating. And I did bring his book along today, actually, to show you, because I really do admire this man, and I don't feel he's been given enough credit.
What's his name?
Satchin Panda. I don't believe he's been given enough credit because he's not.
I'll look
he's
into
not
him
out
too.
there. But so he very much talks about where we should be eating and where we shouldn't. If we're looking at, say, having some grilled fish and vegetables, we can have grilled fish and vegetables up until approximately 2 hours before we sleep, as opposed to a heavier meal, which may contain the carbohydrates, such as pasta, other carbohydrates. That needs to be completed 3 hours before we sleep. Now, the reason for the 2 hour and 3 hour guideline is because in order for us to have a better quality sleep, our core body temperature needs to fall, which is like we were bringing in before about the 8 sleep. Really, really important. This again works with the rhythm of our body because melatonin is supported by cooler body temperature.
Right.
But if our body, so the kidneys and the liver, for example, which all have time clocks on, if that is overworking, our core body temperature is ramped up, and so the cortisol is increased as opposed to reducing. So thinking about timing that we eat, and then of course the food that we eat. So we know that there's a certain number of foods. Salmon is a really wonderful food for sleeping because it contains tryptophan, which boosts our melatonin. If we're looking at yogurt or labneh, yogurt, because of the calcium is a really important building block when it comes to boosting our serotonin, which of course then boosts the melatonin, which helps us sleep. So those are the kind of foods that we would be looking at to boost our sleep. I know everyone talks about turkey because it contains tryptophan,
Right.
but actually it is negligible.
And we have to be careful with it, right?
We
Because
do.
if, especially here, if you're getting sliced turkey or whatever, it may include all sorts of preservatives,
Yeah.
and like it's
Yeah.
not. It's not my go-to for sure.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the salmon as well, actually. I
Yeah.
mean, ideally, wild salmon because there are no preservatives or minimum. But so we do have to be really careful. And I know if we're looking at organic food or non-organic food, and again, there's so much controversy around it, but actually it is the additives that are also disrupting our endocrine system, which are not allowing us to sleep as well. So yes.
Yeah. So it's such a incredible, and I think, would it be safe to say that people should experiment with these? Like for me, maybe Greek yogurt may work a little bit better than fish. Or if I had fish during the day, it doesn't mean I should be having salmon every night, you know?
Yeah.
So it's balance also, no?
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
very much. It's about every one of us are unique. Just like we all have different shoe sizes, different heights, different colors. All of these things are saying that I may process caffeine, for example, at a very different level to you. I know if I drink coffee later than 2 p.m., I know that's going to disrupt my sleep. So it's about how we process certain foods. So again, it's about having that awareness, but building it within yourself and not expecting an expert to say you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, because no matter how good we are in what we learn, I will spend my entire life, I hope, learning about the neuroscience of sleep and how I can be the best practitioner for you. But only you will know how you process certain foods. And
100%. You can't help someone that are not ready to help themselves.
yes,
Because you could have you could do all sorts of, if they don't apply, if they don't
Yeah.
decide to sleep better,
Yeah.
it's never going to happen. You know, these
Yeah.
short hacks, shortcuts, etc. I don't think they work, right?
No, they absolutely don't work. But unfortunately, we live in a society now where we are told they will. And
But because there's money to be made, right?
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
marketing aspect of it is just really confusing everyone. The
Yeah.
amount of information that is out there.
Yeah.
I think, one of my litmus tests is that to ask, why is this information being shared? Like who's to benefit from it? And then you immediately know if this is information that you should pay attention to or not.
Yeah.
And I mean, let's face it, you can take any study and make it work any way you want it to, right? So,
yes.
And then that information, and people are clever, right? So copywriters, marketers, etc., use information in
Yeah.
any way, shape, or form in order to push a particular agenda or
Yeah.
to push a particular product and so on. So I think, we pay a lot of attention to our bank accounts. We pay a lot of attention to all sorts of things that perhaps matter a little bit less than things that contribute directly to our own well-being. So a lot of people would say, well, that's too much. I have, but I mean, you spend a lot. If you look at the things that you pay attention to throughout the day, you can save some of this to pay a little more attention to what it says on the back of anything that you're eating or things that may be influencing, your sleep. Now, I think you and I are passionate about sleep because I can't think, maybe you can, I don't know. I can't think of anything else that has a greater impact on our overall well-being than sleep. Is there anything else that is better?
Well, the only thing that I say that is more important than sleep is
Okay.
breathing. If we were not breathing, we die. But equally,
yeah.
if we're not sleeping, we die. We talk about the pillars of health, whether it's exercise, nutrition. We cannot get the full benefits of nutrition because we are at a much greater increase of risk of injury if we're not sleeping better because the recovery is not there. If you may have the most expensive, organic, clean diet in the world, but if you're not sleeping well, the body's not able to absorb it. We talk about our guts microbiome. That is not able to work at its optimal if we are not sleeping well. So no, apart from breathing, there is nothing more important than sleeping.
Yeah.
But equally, I think it's so hard, be it on individuals, in the workplace or families now, because if you look at Netflix, when the new CEO took over, the first thing that he said was, I am going to wage war on sleep.
Yeah.
Now, how can in today's society, because exactly like you're saying, it's all about money. And I think we have to start to truly understand that we as individuals now are seen as commodities.
Of course.
And we've got to stop giving into, but it's not easy. If you
Our
look at the
time,
phone,
our attention, our everything, right?
Yeah,
Do you know
yeah.
how Netflix and other streaming services capitalize or succeed in winning against sleep? When you're watching something and it finishes,
Yes.
and then the next episode already winds down to start. So if you leave it for like 5 seconds
Yeah.
without switching it off,
Yeah.
the next episode starts. So if the next episode starts, you say, I might as well, and then
Yeah.
the next one, and you find
Yeah.
yourself in small hours of the morning still watching or binge watching
Yeah.
something. So they've created something called binge watching, and binge watching is the killer of sleep.
It's not just the killer of sleep. And this is what we are really, truly not understanding. I know it sounds very dramatic, but it's the destruction of the brain.
Yeah.
Because when we are watching something, we are getting so many dopamine hits.
Yeah.
And dopamine is not a feel good. Dopamine is addiction.
Yeah.
Now, this is where, the phones and the screens, they are created to keep us completely connected. There is no disconnect at all. So it truly is rewiring our brain. And now, again, there are so many examples of how our brain, in the first time from our ancestral heritage, is truly being changed. The architecture of our
Manipulated.
brain.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah. So we've covered so many areas, and you and I can speak forever, but I'd like just to finish off with you giving some brief advice. I know we've said a lot, but maybe we can summarize brief advice for people specifically that live in our region, because we know we have particular challenges for ourselves.
Yeah.
The artificial light, the heat, all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So for someone who wants to get started on a journey of improving their sleep, and I say that very deliberately, because it's not a one night. It doesn't work with one night. It's
No.
a journey that you need to stay on in order to continuously optimize the quality of your sleep. And I want to be very clear about that. You will have, even during your journey, some nights like you did last
Yes.
night yourself, where, you and I, we focus on sleep and we still have, but so what does it say about like everyone will have occasionally not a great night's sleep. That's okay. Now, for people living in the region with the challenges that we have here, especially this time of year when it's particularly hot in summer, but throughout the year, because every part of the year has its own thing, be it Ramadan, be it this, be it that. What are a few tips just to wind down the episode with for people living in our region? I know you've said this before many times, and I've heard you say it many times, but I don't think we can say it enough. So please, just a few tips.
So a few tips. The first one is give yourself grace. Language is so powerful. And if you tell yourself you're a terrible sleeper, then you will be a terrible sleeper.
Correct.
You know, we don't say I'm terrible at such thing. So language is very powerful. Remind yourself that your sleep tonight is going to start from the second that you wake up. And there's 3 very simple steps that you can take. The first one is, and I know this is one of the hardest, even though it's the most simplest, leave your phone outside the room. Leave your phone. If you can't leave it outside the room and you feel you need it for your alarm clock, you don't. You can just get a really nice, inexpensive alarm clock, mechanical alarm clock. That is what's going to help you. But if you can't leave it outside the room, then leave it at the bottom of your bed or near the door so that you have to get out of your bed when you open your eyes. It's not the first thing that we do, because that light from your phone is going to set your day off in terms of cortisol.
Mm-hmm.
So shots of cortisol, which you don't want to start your day. So if you can wait just 3 minutes before you look at your phone, that's going to help. Now, start off with 1 minute. If you can't wait 3 minutes, then start off where you know you can do it. So light, try and get natural light, whether it's just opening your curtains, whether it's going out on the balcony, whether it's opening the window, even though I know it's hot at this time of year, light. Second thing is hydration. Mm-hmm. Try if you can and have a glass of water. The recommendations are, of course, between 600 and 900 mils of water. I don't even do that because it's just overwhelming. But I do have a glass of water. That I do. And it's just about getting in the habit. And then the third thing is a few stretches. And it's nothing like, doing an exercise, doing a workout, nothing like that. It's a few stretches, because when we do those few stretches, we are preparing the body to release the human growth hormone in preparation for the recovery that was required from early morning. So if you start off with those 3 simple tips, that is going to set you up for a good night's sleep. If you forget that, please don't worry. In the evening, from approximately 9 p.m, reduce your light, because your light is the most powerful signal to the brain that sleep is coming soon. That sets your brain up for sleep that night. So turn it off, dim your lights, and then have a cool environment. Yes, the AC is not helpful, but it's all within balance, and see what your sweet spot is. Yep. So simple tips, those 3 things in the morning, try and move a little. We know that sitting is the new smoking when it comes to health risks. Even if you're sat at your desk and you cannot get outside, you can actually get up and move every hour. That's going to help with your sleep at night. So movement, and then look at what you're eating in the evening. Those are my very uncomplicated, unscientific, but of course the science is all there.
Yeah, there's so much more, obviously. Like you've said so many things in the past that I've seen you do. Like it's incredible that, the opportunity is there for people.
Yeah.
The calf raises, if you can't get up, I feel that these really help me,
Yes.
for example, especially on planes and things like that.
Yes.
There are so many little tips that you begin to feel what, and then be kind to yourself. Like don't be so tough on yourself, and prioritize it. If you prioritize it, it will happen. If you pay attention to it, it will happen. Where focus goes, energy flows type situation. So the same thing, if you pay attention to it, it will happen. Just be patient with it.
Yeah. And it's about having those manageable steps, but committing.
Yes.
It's about, from this conversation today, I really want people to take something away that they can action today.
Today, exactly. Not
and
tomorrow.
Whether it's just moving, just that one simple change can help with our sleep tonight. So what can you do to make a change in your day that will support a slightly better sleep? We're not looking for perfect. We're looking at building better sleep habits.
Gradual improvements, yeah. Julie, thank you so much. This
You're
has been
most
amazing.
welcome.
Thank you so much for being so generous with your time and information. And I can't wait for us to catch up again about
Me
this.
too. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. Well, here you go, guys. Another amazing episode of Becoming Limitless. Please remember to be kind to yourselves and to others, and see you next time.